And you seem to make the point very clearly that the judicial branch doesn't need to be a political branch. It needs to separate itself in exchange for an adherence to the law. But when you look at the three branches of governance, there is only one branch of government that designs, writes, and ratifies law. The executive branch would be purely political, with the exception of maybe the veto power that they have. They execute the laws of the General Assembly. Why is the shift then, I guess I'm getting to more towards a gubernatorial authority when you're coming to a matter of what does a law mean, or what does a law stand for, or how is a law drafted, or what does a law say? Is it not the drafter of the law, the passage of the law as a whole? Now, each of us stand for individual elections, but we pass law as a whole. That would be the most defining expert of a law itself. As we created it, wrote it, drafted it, passed it among two chambers, and placed it out. Why would it be the role of the branch of government whose sole authority is to execute that law, to make that to have that kind of balance of power shifted to them in determination and interpretation?
Well, so I think ultimately it wouldn't be either of the political branches that has the power to interpret the law. That would rest with the courts, and I think that's kind of the genius of the separation of powers that our constitutional system, both our federal system and state systems, is based on. That you don't leave the same body that's responsible for writing the law to interpret the law, and that forces legislators to write laws in a way that are kind of, sort of neutral and generally applicable, because they're not going to be able to then, after the fact, kind of tweak them for their own benefits. They have to write them in a way where somebody who's neutral and not kind of part of that process will read them and say what they are. And I think that separation of powers is really core to how our system of government works, and specifically the role of the judiciary. With respect to, if you're looking at an appointment system, where should the appointment power lie? I'm going to speak in more detail just later in the presentation about what the experiences have been. And I would say that, with respect to legislative appointments, I think the experiences really suggest some cautions in terms of how those processes have actually sort of operated in practice. I think there's a real concern that with a legislative appointment system, it can kind of undermine confidence in both in the judiciary and potentially in the legislature as well, because you don't have kind of clear lines of accountability, and it encourages decision making that's opaque and not kind of clear to the public, and so it can really pose, I think, concerns in terms of like I said, public confidence.